5-year-old Talia was described as a happy, loving angel, and those 5 years was all the time she would get on this earth, before her life was brutally taken by someone who was supposed to care for, love, and protect her. Talia Emoni Williams was born on March 20, 2000 in Orangeburg County, South Carolina, to parents Talia Williams and Naeem Williams. Talia and Naeem were never married and did not have a relationship beyond Talia. Talia was raised by her mother for most of her short life. Before her death, Talia lived with her mother in South Carolina, and at this time her parents were in a custody battle that Talia would ultimately lose. At the time of the custody battle, Talia was in a same-gender relationship, and Talia was found to have developmental disabilities because of her premature birth. In 2004, a South Carolina judge awarded custody to Naeem after hearing allegations that Talia was malnourished in her mother's care, and from what some reports say her mother's same-gender relationship lifestyle. Naeem and his wife Talia Williams resided on a military base in Honolulu, Hawaii. In December 2004, Talia moved in with her father and stepmother, and 7 months later, Talia would be deceased. Naeem Williams was an Army soldier and was married to Talia Williams, who worked at a daycare facility on the base. The couple resided at the Wheeler Army Airfield Military Base in Honolulu, Hawaii. 3 months after Talia moved in, the couple gave birth to a little girl named Azra. During the time Talia lived with her dad and his wife, the abuse she faced included belts, rulers, punches, starvation, and duct taping her to a bed. Food would be withheld for days, and Talia had been kept out of school to hide the abuse. The couple pulled Talia out of school and would leave her alone at home to try and keep other people from seeing her bruises. All of this, because the couple struggled to potty train the special education kindergartner. But could you imagine the force of a punch from a grown man, who's also a trained soldier, to any part of a 5-year-old's body? In January, Talia was arrested for endangering the welfare of a minor, after she threw objects during a fight with Naeem in Talia's presence. This incident took place on the military base and was never reported to Child Protective Services. Instead, it was reported to the Army's Family Advocacy Program, where the social worker on the case incorrectly reported that Talia was not present during the fight, and also never interviewed her. A couple weeks later, the military police were called again about the family, after workers at the Federal Child Care Center at the Schofield Barracks noted marks on Talia that they believed were possibly signs of abuse. The military agent in charge of investigating the claim was told by Talia that her mother did it, then the father did it. The agent then sent the Honolulu police away and did not report it to State Child Protective Services, nor did the agent enter it into the advocacy's database. A month before Talia's death in June 2005, a co-worker of Talia at the Schofield Barracks told a superior that she heard Talia say it was okay to whip a child, just don't leave any marks. Again, no further action was taken, as the superior did not file a report or direct the co-worker to call military police. Later that month, on June 29, 2005, the military police failed to notify CPS after they responded to a report of a child screaming at the couple's home for over an hour. When they arrived, they found Talia naked and mute, standing near feces on the floor with marks all over her body and scratches on her face. When military officers responded to the call and inquired about Talia's injuries, the Williams just brushed it off as an accident. Less than 3 weeks later, after this incident, on the afternoon hours of July 16, 2005, Naeem had whipped Talia because she had urinated on herself. Then later in the day, she did it again, and this time when he struck her, Talia fell backwards, slamming her head against the floor. Talia then had a seizure, and after this she stopped moving and became silent. She was now unconscious. Naeem then put her in the bathtub and poured water on her in an attempt to revive her. The couple, however, didn't call police for 2 hours, which they would later say was to give a relative enough time to come get Azra, who was now just 4 months old. Finally, at about 5:45 p.m., a resident at an apartment complex at Wheeler Army Airfield called 911, requesting EMTs as there was a child in possible cardiac arrest. When emergency personnel arrived, they found Talia unresponsive and with no pulse. They were able to briefly revive her, but again she went into cardiac arrest. Talia was then transported to the Wahiawa General Hospital, but upon arrival, Talia was pronounced dead. During the trial, prosecutor attorney Steve Mellon would bring to light the extent of the abuse Talia endured, including punching Talia repeatedly, commanding her to eat her own feces, duct taping her from head to toe to the bedpost and whipping her with a belt, and forcing her to do strenuous exercises, and then beating her when she was unable to continue. Delilah pled guilty to murder in exchange for 20 years in prison to testify against Naeem, as part of a deal struck in 2006. This was because 30-year-old Delilah Williams was not innocent by any means. On the stand, she admitted her part in the abuse and admitted to one time grabbing 5-year-old Talia by the hair and throwing her against a wall with so much force that the wall cracked. Delilah also demonstrated to the jury how she repeatedly stomped Talia a couple weeks before she died. Delilah would also hit Talia with a belt and even admitted to stomping on her stomach so hard that she defecated on herself. Despite this, Delilah blamed Naeem for Talia's death, testifying that he struck her hard enough to damage her head and kill her. On June 27, 2014, in Honolulu, a federal jury of 7 men and 5 women found Naeem guilty of beating 5-year-old Talia Williams to death at their family home on Wheeler Army Airfield. The jurors were also given the task of deliberating Naeem's sentencing on whether he should get the death penalty or serve life in prison without the possibility of parole. They took 7 days before returning a deadlocked decision to the judge. During the proceedings leading up to the sentencing deliberations, Naeem's family, including his 9-year-old daughter and 11-year-old son from a previous relationship, testified that they love their father and his life has value. Naeem went on to read a statement to jurors, apologizing for killing Talia and asking them to let him live. He said the beatings were discipline for Talia's bowel and bladder control issues and the frustrations with his marriage. Naeem also stated he beat Talia that day partly because she spit toothpaste on the bathroom sink.
Worse than a wicked stepmother. That's how a federal judge described Delilah Williams.
He went on to say it was unfortunate that the woman who brutalized 5-year-old Talia Williams would spend no more than 20 years in prison.
Mileka Lincoln has more on today's sentencing, first at 5.
Chris, Steph, Delilah Williams will get credit for the 9 years she's already spent behind bars, meaning she only has about a decade left to serve for her role in the torture and abuse of her special needs stepdaughter.
U.S. District Judge Michael Seabright described 30-year-old Delilah Williams as depraved today. Quote, "You are wicked, you are evil. Knowingly and seemingly with pleasure, you engaged in this pattern of torture." He also had harsh words for prosecutors, calling their plea deal difficult to swallow. Williams was promised 20 years behind bars in exchange for testifying against her husband Naeem during the ex-Schofield soldier's death penalty trial.
20 years is not a sufficient amount of time that she deserves. She has no remorse.
But Williams' attorney disagrees.
If you repeat a story for over and over and over again for 9 years, it's kind of hard to have the emotion and the effect that one would have when they heard it for the first time, which is what the judge and the jury did.
Despite Williams' cooperation with prosecutors, jurors were unable to reach a unanimous decision on the death penalty. Naeem Williams was sentenced instead to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Both jurors and the judge expressed disappointment after learning the lead federal prosecutor was quoted in an editorial as saying he just wasted 6 months when Williams was spared capital punishment.
It's kind of disturbing that he said he wasted 6 months of his life, because that's basically telling us we wasted 4 of ours, that we didn't have to go through the process.
But First Assistant U.S. District Attorney Elliot Inoki maintains the prosecution was not a waste of time, and they stand by their pursuit of a death sentence. Quote, "While the U.S. decision to seek the death penalty was warranted, we respect and accept the jurors' determination that life in prison was an appropriate outcome."
Officials say Talia Williams will serve the remainder of her sentence on the mainland. Her husband, Naeem Williams, will be formally sentenced in October. Nileka Lincoln, Hawaii News.
7 months later, on Friday, February 6, 2015, U.S. District Judge J. Michael Seabright sentenced then 34-year-old Naeem Williams to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In 2008, Talia Williams filed a lawsuit against the government before the trial, but it was put on hold for the duration of the trial completed. 2 years later, U.S. District Judge Alan Kay supported her claims, giving Talia the green light to file the lawsuit. The judge noted that the moment military police had found Talia, naked and mute in a room standing near feces on the floor. And despite them thinking something did not look right, they did not report anything to CPS. Talia filed the lawsuit because she said she believes the government could have done more to help Talia, since military police had been called to the house for numerous domestic incidents. The lawsuit noted several incidents that should have charges, and or raised red flags for authorities at Wheeler Army Air Force Base. Talia tried to help Talia after fearing she was being abused. After she talked to Talia herself, she learned that Talia was mistreated. But Talia wasn't financially stable and had few places to turn for help. She tried calling the school, but had very little resources and couldn't even afford the long-distance phone calls. Talia's case was settled early in 2015, with the Department of Defense agreeing to a $2 million settlement for not doing enough to save Talia. On July 16, 2015, Senator Mazie K. Hirono, a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, introduced Talia's law. The amendment would fix the loophole that cost Talia her life. It would eliminate the practice of having only one reporting point of contact, and instead immediately notifying state departments with the authority to remove a child of any alleged abuse. Also, making the proper reports to notify both the Department of Defense and the Family Advocacy Program, as well as the appropriate state child welfare department. On December 27, 2016, President Obama signed Talia's law into act to protect children on military bases.